Are you like most sales and other professionals who want to grow their wealth faster than what they are currently doing through their company 401k, even with that company match, the stock market, or just plain saving money? Would you sleep better at night if you had the financial freedom to be job optional in just 3 to 5 years through investing in real assets? Maybe you don't want to stop working, but wouldn't it be cool if you could retire a decade earlier than most and do the traveling you and your family have planned for years while you're still young and can enjoy it? Let's face it, most busy professionals don't have the time or desire to take on more work outside of their W-2 to grow their wealth. On The Wealth Flow, each week we share the stories, the investments, and take a deep dive into the various asset classes that can deliver that accelerated growth to your portfolio passively. That's right, no extra work for you. Instead, we'll put your money to work. Learn what the 95% aren't talking about and join the top 5% of earners today on The Wealth Flow.
All right, welcome to The Wealth Flow. My guest today is Tom Dunkel. He is the Chief Investment Officer for Belrose Storage Group. Tom brings 27 years of real estate and financial and investing experience to his position. Working alongside his world-class team of professionals, Tom makes his mission to find great investment opportunities for his clients while helping them meet their wealth-building goals. Tom manages the firm's financial underwriting, playing a critical role in creating win-win deal structures that ensure achievable investor returns. Tom is also responsible for arranging loans with local banks and mortgage brokerages. And he is also both on the Belrose team, and our investor benefits greatly from Tom's mentorship, expansive experience in real estate investing, and dedication to making every deal a success. So, Tom, welcome to The Wealth Flow. That was a little bit of a mouthful, but
yeah, that was wow. I was like, who are you talking about? The guy sounds pretty cool.
Exactly. Yeah, Tom, if we could maybe just start with kind of where you grew up and what eventually led you to real estate.
Yeah, sure. No, I appreciate it, Keith. It's great to be with you and all the listeners today. Yeah, so I grew up outside Philadelphia in the suburbs, and Eagles, Phillies, Flyers, Sixers fans. So we've had some good years, had some bad years, but yeah, I'm the youngest of 3 kids, so I was kind of the brat of the family, and by the time my parents got around to me, like I pretty much could do whatever I wanted. My brother and sister kind of paved the trail for me, but anyway, had a great upbringing. Went to some great schools, and eventually, I really had a desire to do something on my own. So when I got out of business school in 1995, I did go corporate for about 11, 12 years. I was doing corporate finance and mergers and acquisitions in the aerospace industry, and then telecommunications and software. And so my first bubble experience was the internet bubble burst. I was in investment banking back then at a tech investment banking firm, and so our firm went from like 120 or so people down to about 5, and
Wow.
I was not one of the 5 left over. So, but all of that experience gave me, I think, a great foundation to just understand the dynamics of a transaction, not only the quantitative side but also the qualitative side. Getting the team together, the negotiation part, but then of course the nuts and bolts of the debt and the equity and the projections and the actual capital raising process and all that stuff. So it was a great foundation. I had some great mentors and leaders there that I learned a ton from, for sure. But 2006, I got fired from my corporate job, and that was really the kick in the pants that I needed to actually go out and really start to do my own thing. So Of course, 2006 wasn't the best time to jump into real estate, but that's what I did, both feet, and started doing, some fix and flips and picked up some rentals and did some wholesaling in the residential world. I think that's where a lot of people start out.
For
And
sure.
so I proceeded to get my butt whooped pretty good those next few years as the Great Recession fell upon us. And so lost a lot of money, lost a lot of hair. But anyway, I learned a lot though, and I persisted. I was determined to, kind of keep grinding. And so it was back then that I found distressed mortgage debt and built a great company there, and which has allowed us to do some other things and some other asset classes. I could fill in those blanks later, but yeah, now we're in storage. We've been in storage since really started hearing about it in like 2017, 2018. 2019, we started going to all the conferences and to the mastermind groups and that sort of thing. My partner Joe and I realized like we didn't have all the necessary skills. So we went out and we found those people, we brought them on our team and put the plan together, lined up the investors, and we've been buying pretty aggressively since 2020. So we've acquired 14 facilities for about $42 million. And we're just really excited about the space. We've got a great team that continues to grow and develop. And we're really excited that we can deliver some great deals and some great returns to our investors as well.
Yeah, there's a lot there, Tom, and I think I understand completely what you mean about as far as the older siblings paving the way. I was right in the middle, and I can remember back in high school, one of my science teachers saying, "Gosh, you guys just keep getting worse and worse. Your sister was great, but you guys just keep getting worse and worse." So
Right.
anyway, so you started obviously in the fix and flip, and I too went through I was a full-time real estate broker during the 2007. I started to see it start for me in 2007, 2008. So yes, probably 2006 felt like it was depending on how quickly you turned around the flips, probably felt pretty good, but gave you a little bit of a false sense of what was to come for sure.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. It was easy. I actually joined a franchise you might have heard of called Homevestors. So I bought a Homevest franchise. So they had I figured with my background, right? Because I did some great training and some great skills that I had developed. I figured, hey, if I could just get a system, I could work the system and, I'll be off to the races. But that system wasn't, and my experience didn't really line up with, that kind of drastic shift in the market so early on in my career. So it was a learning process.
For sure. Sometimes we don't realize it as we're going through it, but sometimes those are some good experiences just to, kind of go through the school of hard knocks and learn those lessons. And you said that you went from there into debt. I want to talk maybe a little bit about that. Tell me a little bit about what you were doing with this distressed debt and kind of what that looked like.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So when the residential real estate market kind of crashed and, I was kind of stuck holding a bunch of properties and, here I have a wife and, I've got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old at home at the time. I'm like, all right, I gotta figure something out here, So I started, just going to the local real estate investor meetup groups, and just through networking and running into people, I started hearing about people buying distressed mortgage notes, or actually what they were buying was reperforming mortgage notes that somebody else in our network had, acquired the non-performing loan and got it reperforming. And I was like, wow, so just with my background in, in debt and financing and, doing deals and stuff, it just kind of resonated with me, that you could play real estate, with the paper instead of with the bricks. So it just appealed to me. And as I started looking more and more into it, I brought in my partner, Joe, at that time. And, I thought it was a pretty good idea. And he's a smart guy. He came out of, the commercial side of real estate after the crash. So he was also looking kind of for his next move. So he's a smart dude. And I said, all right, well, why don't you go and do your due diligence on the distressed debt business, and then we'll meet back here at the bar that was around the corner from both of our houses. Let's meet back here in a couple of weeks and let's talk about what you found out. And he came back and he's like, I think you might be onto something. And so we just sat down in a booth at this Irish pub, flipped over a paper placemat, and just started kind of jotting out our business plan, literally on the back of a placemat. So that's 14 years ago, and we've generated about $54 million of revenue in that business. Transacted on over 11,000 loans, and so it's we just sort of caught a good little niche there, and we got smart, and we got ourselves around the right people, and and we were able to make a really nice go of it, and that business is continuing on today. So it's a pretty interesting business for sure.
Yeah, that's really neat to hear. And so, that is kind of was the basis of your current company. Then it sounds like you guys are still part of the the self storage is kind of a kind of what the loan stuff morphed into. Although you still are participating in that as well.
The sister company, I guess I'd call it.
Okay.
So because the thing is, Keith, with just the distressed debt business is super volatile, right? So because we're at the mercy of the banks, the big banks selling, right? And they only do that from time to time, and they only do it on their time frame. It's not like we can really go knocking and be like, "Hey, sell us some loans." It's all their internal bureaucracy and processes. So that, as a business school guy, right, I'm like wanting to draw up the business plan and get the metrics and the key performance indicators and, focus on those things. And with the distressed debt business, it just wasn't possible. At least as far as, getting a predictable acquisition pipeline going. So that was our search, like starting in probably about 2014, 2015, we started looking for other businesses that we could get involved in that would smooth out our income, because we would have like really good years and then we'd have like 0 years in distressed debt. So it was tough. On the home front, trying to explain, to the spouse, like, so we're not going to make any money this year, but next year we're going to make a lot of money. So that, so we were looking for different businesses. So we started a hard money lending business, and we just couldn't get traction there. I definitely learned some lessons there about what to do and what not to do. We were partners in a title company for a short period of time. That didn't really work out. So that's when we started really looking at self-storage, and we felt like self-storage was a stable asset class. We could build a predictable acquisition pipeline, more or less. And it's a fragmented industry. There's a whole laundry list of things that we found really attractive about it. So that's been the plan, is to just hopefully, it's kind of that portfolio effect, right? So we have the crazy volatile business. We're looking for the kind of the steady Eddie business to go along with it.
Yeah, perfect. And we'll get into the self-storage here next. I just have two questions though on kind of on the debt stuff. Is there certain times of the year that banks are looking to unload some of those non-performing, or I guess in this case, it was maybe, loans that they have got performing. And then also, how many of those are they packaging them up to certain sizes? There's X amount, whether it be a dollar amount, whether it be a number. Tell me a little bit about that part of it. Just curious.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, great question. So the answer is somewhat yes. So of course, banks are highly regulated, right? And they have quarterly reports and quarterly kind of reviews that they go through with regulators, right? So as the end of the quarter starts coming up, they are wanting to clean up their books, right? Because if a regulator comes in and sees they have all this bad debt on their books, that's gonna kind of ding the bank. They typically are looking to unload the non-performing loans, or what they call non-accrual loans, that at those kind of intervals. But it's not it doesn't always work out that way, but generally speaking, yes, that's how that works. And as our company has evolved, like we started buying reperforming loans, but as our debt companies evolve, now we're buying non-performing loans directly from a big U.S. bank. And so now, where in the beginning we were buying from a middleman,
Mm-hmm.
now we're the middleman. So we are probably one of the top sellers of non-performing second liens in the country.
Wow.
So there's a lot of groups out there, and hey, good for them. They're putting themselves out there as having a distressed debt fund or whatever. Well, a lot of the loans they buy they're buying from us.
Right. Okay.
Which is
Okay.
great for us. It's risk-free profit for us because we're just kind of buying in bulk and chopping it up and selling
Okay.
um, for a profit. So we've positioned ourselves over the years in kind of a good spot there. So we'll hold on to the loans that we think we can get worked out, and then the other ones, through our analytics, if it's less probable, then we'll look to sell that to someone kind of downstream from us.
Okay. Okay. Very, very interesting. And when you're buying, how big of when you say buying in bulk, what it would tell us?
Yeah. So the biggest transaction we've ever done was about 2,000 loans.
Oh, wow.
But that goes all the way down to, I think the most recent trade that we did was just a couple hundred loans.
Okay.
And I say just a couple hundred, and which is funny to hear that coming out of my mouth, because our first deal ever, buying non-performing loans, we bought 6 loans for $12,000, my partner Joe and I. And that was like the first go round. That was like, all right, we're putting up, our last 12 grand that we can scrape up. Let's see what we can do. And so now it's kind of funny just how things have evolved over the years. But yeah, we're in a good spot. It's been a great business.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, why don't we go to self-storage from there, and just
Sure.
maybe tell us about the first one that you bought, and maybe some of the lessons that you learned on that first one. Give us an idea of gross rentable square
Yeah.
feet, all that good stuff.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So our first acquisition was budget self storage in Waldorf, Maryland, which is outside Washington D.C. We bought it for $1.5 million. It's about 21,000 square feet, 200 units. And we bought this. So what we do, Keith, is when we're looking at a new asset class or a new idea, we always put up our own money first, just to kind of test things out, right, and work out the kinks before we actually go to our network of high net worth investors, because we want to make sure we've eaten our own cooking, right, and we know what we're doing. So that's what we did in this case. We bought this facility ourselves. I mean, it was definitely a learning process, mostly on the operations side. We had one of the people that we brought on, as like I was mentioning earlier, we kind of bulked up the team. One of them is a nationally known self-storage operations expert. Like, she speaks at the national conferences, and she has clients all over the country, and she's worked on hundreds of facilities over her career. And so she was able to teach us how to go about running these things. So she brought her systems and processes, and kind of taught us. And we certainly learned some things here and there, but I would say all in all, it was a pretty smooth transaction. And really, our tried and true recipe. We find facilities that are underperforming as compared to the competitors in the market. And most times it's going to be a mom and pop, onesie, twosie facility owner, right? So they're not going to the national conferences. They're not using the latest technology. They're not analyzing the market and figuring out where their rates could be or should be. These markets, we analyze what's going on. We look at the supply of storage. We look at the demand for storage, and where we see kind of a disconnect is where we find opportunities. So that's what was happening here. In fact, this facility was owned by a big real estate investing firm, but they were focused more on like medical office and some other things. So this self-storage facility was kind of the redheaded stepchild in the portfolio, and didn't get any attention. So apologies to any redheaded stepchildren out there, but it was, but it was almost like a nuisance for them. So when we took it over, it was clear that they just hadn't been paying attention to the rates in the market. There was a lot of deferred maintenance, like just doors needed to be fixed. So it needed some painting, some patching of the asphalt in the drive aisles, and some basic, pretty simple blocking and tackling kinds of things. Our technology platform, so that we could really upgrade that, so that customers could rent a unit right from their smartphone, and so everyone loves that kind of convenience. So just doing those simple things allowed us to increase the NOI by close to 50% over a pretty short period of time. And we were 0.6 million, like about a year and a half later. And so we, again, we weren't splitting atoms or, shooting anybody into space. It was just kind of some basic business blocking and tackling. And that's what we've consistently done on the rest of the facilities that we've acquired as well. And we've been able to generate great results that way.
Okay. And obviously that one, a year and a half, that's a pretty quick turnaround. What are you typically seeing? And I guess maybe the question even before that is the next one that you decided to do. Obviously, you guys, have proof of concept now. You've come in, you've been able to do some things. It's like, wow, we've not only been able to increase NOI, but by 50%. What at that point were you starting to allow investors in? And okay, great.
Yes, we were.
Perfect.
Yeah. So our second deal worked out really great. Granite City Storage down in Mount Airy, North Carolina. So where we got educated in self-storage was through named Scott Myers. He runs self-storage investing. So we were part of his mastermind group, and that's where we learned all this great stuff. But one of the benefits of doing that was when you're just getting started and you're learning the business and finding deals and raising money, he actually opens up his network of investors. So that second deal, we brought some of our investors in, but we were still kind of developing our self-storage investors. And so we were able to leverage Scott's network and close that second deal, which was pretty cool. So we bought that facility. We raised $1,025,000 over the holidays back in 2021. So that was pretty cool. 55,000 square foot facility. And we were able to exit that one a year and a half later for about 3.8. So yeah, so again, we were able to really crank up the NOI. We were able to push rates. Our analysis of that market indicated to us that we could do that. The supply and demand, was out of kilter. The other facilities in that market were all full. So when we went in that market and we start raising rates, the customers have a decision to make. They're like, well, all the competitors on the street and get another storage facility to save whatever, $25 a month. I'll have to either keep this unit and absorb these price increases, or I'll have to take all my stuff home and put it back in my garage where it came from.
Right.
So we were kind of playing that supply and demand game, and it worked out real well for us there, and then in subsequent deals as well.
Okay. And so right now you've got how many facilities? You say 14 or you've had 14?
3, yes. We have 11 in our portfolio right now.
Okay. How about geographically? Where all are you investing?
Yes, we're mostly up and down the East Coast, from Maryland to Florida. We have one sort of outlier in upstate New York, but aside from that, we're pretty much up and down the East Coast.
Okay. And and with that, so when you're going in and you're looking at a facility, you mentioned looking at competitors. You mentioned just mom and pop owners. Some of the things that you look at and you say, "Gosh, this could this, and this."
Yeah, great question. So we look at a bunch of things, not unlike I know multifamily sponsors out there are looking for very similar things that we're looking for, right? So we're looking for a good solid market in terms of population growth. We're actually kind of looking for that Goldilocks scenario. We don't want the market growing too fast, because a really fast growing market is going to attract like the big REITs, right? The real estate investment trusts, Public Storage, Extra Space, CubeSmart, all those big guys. And so when they come in, they'll build like 100,000, 150,000, 200,000 square foot monstrous facility. So we try to stay away from the REITs. Secondary markets, tertiary markets, where there's a solid population and solid population growth, not too fast. We're also looking for job growth, of course, and we're looking for infrastructure investments being made in terms of roads and schools and maybe rail lines, things like that. We're looking for those commercial drivers. A decent level of income, household income, because if it's too low, again, this is another Goldilocks scenario. If it's too low, then we might run into some collection issues here and there. If it's too high, those folks are buying homes that are big enough where they don't need storage. So we like it. We like to be in that. It depends. It varies market to market, but generally speaking, call it $50,000 a year to maybe $100,000 a year household income. And then we're looking at things like poverty level. Again, we're wanting that to not be too high, because then we'll run into management issues at the competitors in the market. So we look at the the 1, 3, and 5 mile radiuses there, radii.
There you go.
And, just to see like what the rates are that they're charging and what the rate trends are. Are they going up? Are they going down? We look at the pipeline of activity. So are there new facilities that are in the works that are going to be built? And if so, how big are they? And what impact is that going to have on that supply demand analysis that we do? That's really kind of what we're looking for. Again, we're looking for markets that are more like what we call mid ops, like middle operators, kind of like us, and smaller. And so we're avoiding the big companies, because what they do when they build a new facility or they acquire a new facility drastically to get those units filled. And then they jack up the rates. Once it's full, they jack up the rates on those people. So in that period of time where they're leasing up, it makes it really challenging for guys like us to compete. So we end up losing out, and it can cause us to have occupancy and rate management issues. So we're very wary of that situation.
Yeah. And what about is there a mixture of climate controlled, non-climate controlled? There's some variations when you say climate control, but yeah. So tell me a little bit about the makeup of what yours are like, and are they multi-level? Any of them?
Yep. Yeah, we've got a mixed bag. Generally speaking, we are buying like Class C and
Hmm.
maybe Class C that we can turn into a Class B
Okay.
kind of facility. So these are older facilities. They're typical story. We do have one multi-story. It's only 2 stories. Yeah, I think we just have the one. So that one's all indoor climate controlled.
Okay.
We have other facilities where even though it's drive up, the units are climate controlled. So we have a few tertiary, secondary and tertiary markets, Class C kinds of facilities where our value add strategies really will add a lot of value.
Okay. And what about as you look at different facilities? You see obviously the units themselves, but then there's a lot of times kind of additional storage, that kind of thing. Are most of yours units, or what's the makeup of having RV storage as part of the facility?
Yeah, yeah, great question. So we kind of learned about RV and boat by accident because one of the facilities that we bought, it wasn't quite 50-50, but it was pretty close to 50-50 regular storage and then boat and RV.
Hmm.
And so, we saw the numbers, we asked, around in our network about it, and it seemed like a great deal. So we went ahead and bought that one, White Marsh Storage outside. And actually, that's the facility. So our first deal that we were talking about earlier, our budget self-storage in Waldorf, Maryland, we actually 1031 exchanged out of that one into White Marsh
Okay.
storage outside Baltimore. So uh, learning process, but what we learned we really liked because it's strictly outdoor storage. So we don't have canopies or anything like that. So, as far as operating expenses and operating hassle, it's really next to nothing. The only thing, we might have some challenges with is if somebody parks a little crooked and messes up like
Right.
the next parking space over and things like that. But generally speaking, they kind of come in, park their RV when they're not using it, and when they are using it, they just leave their car in that space and do what they're going to do with the RV. Pretty low hassle factor there, which is great. And of course, you don't have the roll up doors or the springs or anything like that. In this particular facility, it's a gravel parking lot, so there's not a whole heck of a lot of maintenance or anything going on there that's expensive. So, and that's probably one of the big things that we like about self storage is the operating expenses, generally speaking, are really low, especially as compared to multifamily and some of the other commercial asset classes.
Yeah, and one thing that's interesting as well, to me anyway, just in space, is of course those that are included in the mobile home park space. Saw as we went through COVID, some rent moratoriums, those kinds of things, and I've
Mhm.
heard, and you could tell me if if this has been your experience as well, but that really there wasn't legislation as far as that goes, and preventing people from pausing their rent and not being able to evict them. Obviously, it's a totally different process when you're not trying to remove a person.
Exactly right, Keith. Yeah, we did not have eviction moratoriums for storage
Right.
for the simple fact that you just laid out there, which is we're not housing people, we're housing stuff.
Right.
So our laws fall under lien law as compared to landlord tenant law. So landlord tenant law, as I know from my own experience as a recovering landlord, is typically heavily favored in favor of the tenant, right?
Right.
Which puts, I mean, man, I could tell you some stories, but anyway. Yeah, I mean, if they're 60 days past due, 61, they get a notice that their stuff's getting auctioned in 7 days. And then we just put the stuff up, we take some pictures, put the stuff up on an auction site. these people who like to buy that stuff, they bid. The best part is that person that wins that auction has 72 hours to come to our facility and physically clean out that space for us.
Nice.
Because, right, for us, like if we have to bring in an outside contractor or a dumpster or anything like that, it's a huge expense. It's a huge hassle. It's a huge time drag, right? But now within 72 hours, this person's going to come clear out that unit, and we just go in there with a broom, sweep it out, just give it a once over, make sure the door's working right, the springs are greased, and things are ready to roll, and we can have that unit rented.
Mentioned that you've done that you're buying these as existing units, and a couple times now you've mentioned the springs, and so I was going to ask you, and I want to get to the technology piece of buying an older facility and what can be done to kind of bring that up to speed. If you're buying an older facility with doors working properly, how many times are you having to come in and just replace a ton of the equipment from the door standpoint?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it certainly happens from time to time. And that's obviously like acquiring any piece of real estate, you're going to have even your own personal home, right? I mean, You're going to have a list of, you're going to have a punch list of things that you want to get taken care of. So, so we allow for that in our underwriting. And when we're acquiring the facilities, we have a capital expenditure budget to cover those things. And when we are looking at buying a facility, again, kind of like when you're looking to buy your own personal residence, we get a full inspection done. But in this world, it's fancy. They call it PCR, property condition report. And so that report will tell us, you in building 3, you might want to look at or there's 48 doors that look like they are going to need to be replaced. Some of them immediately, some of them within the next 3 to 5 years, kind of thing. So we go in eyes wide open, knowing what we need to be prepared for there. But it's just part of owning, right? Any kind of physical structure, you're going to have repairs, maintenance, capital expenditure is taken care of. And similar again to your personal residence, we like to have a little bit of everyone knows out there, right? It's women are running the household, women are making the decisions, so the women have to be comfortable coming to a storage facility. So we make sure that we have a nice sign, we make sure that our the gate is working properly, that there's just so anyone that's on property, even if it's after dark, there's.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and then what about technology? So you buy an older mom and pop operated place. What are some of the things that you're able to do from a technology standpoint? Do you have the ability at some of your facilities for folks to just I don't know. I know with short-term rental that we have, there's a keypad. You just give them a code and they have access. And if you want to decline that access at some point, you can always do that. So, what are the options with self-storage?
That's right. Yeah. Very, very similar situation. So, we do some of the simple things, right? Like LED lighting and, so adding some of those things, security cameras. You used to have those big, CCTV, cameras up in the corner. That's all gone. Now they're like really small and they just have an adhesive back to them and they're all Wi-Fi enabled. So there's no, cables and wiring anymore. So it makes it really slick and really easy to get plenty of security cameras where you want them. And you can actually, kind of like the Ring system on your front door, you can actually have a conversation with somebody through the camera. If it's a customer and they're having an issue, you can deal with them that on the property. You can kind of, yell at them like 3 minutes to get off the property kind of thing. So we're able to do that. But probably the coolest thing, Keith, is just especially because millennials are the biggest, biggest generation now, and they are becoming the biggest users of self-storage.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, they want to do everything from their smartphone, right? So we do advertising on Google and Facebook and Instagram and whatnot. So because a lot of times someone just says self storage near me, and if you pop up and your price is pretty competitive and it's in a convenient location, they'll just go ahead and rent it right there, maybe even sight unseen. But the reality is most people that rent at a self-storage facility have driven by it before. And so in that instance, we have a QR code on the gate. So they scan the QR code with their smartphone. They can fill out their paperwork electronically on their phone, sign with that information, which is huge because we put them on auto pay. And then their time with us becomes kind of like a Planet Fitness membership, where it becomes more of a hassle to go all the way down there and cancel it and move your stuff, than to just put up with the $10 or $15 or $30 month. Once they fill out their paperwork and get their credit card information in, then they are text the gate code. So they enter the gate code, they drive to their unit. They roll up the door. There's a lock in there waiting for them. They empty out their stuff, lock it up, and they're on their way without ever having interacted with a store manager. So it's super efficient for everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then what about as far as management goes? Do we have on-site management at most of your facilities? If so, it sounds like at least one big component of that is taken out of their hands. Maybe you still have people that do walk in and they have to complete the application there. But what does that look like hours wise? How often do you have it staffed?
Yeah. So we use what we call a hybrid management model, aligned to each facility. However, they're only required to be on the property for 4 days a month, and that's just to go and handle things that can't be handled over the internet or over a phone call, right? So picking up trash, fixing, fence, gate, whatever it might be. Because the reality is, again, like when you call the facility, the phone number for the facility, it'll ring. They might be in New York State, but they're getting a call for the facility in North Carolina, and the customer doesn't know or care. Answer their problem solved. So that's really made things very efficient for us in terms of increasing the net operating income at the facilities, which of course is what drives the value of the facility. So we're able to really skinny down our expenses and generate greater NOI and greater returns for our investors, because we're able to use that hybrid structure.
Yeah, that's neat. For sure. And so let me ask you this then. With the 14 facilities that you guys have purchased, how many of them had on-site management in place that you, at that point, put on this hybrid system?
So when we take over a facility, we always get rid of the old manager.
That's a good move.
If that's your question, yeah. So because we have our own systems and procedures and policies and philosophies, right? And a lot of times the facility that we acquired, it's probably because the manager that's there was doing a bad job.
Right.
So we're typically having them hit the road. Only one case did we keep. Well, actually, we didn't even keep him. We fired him. Well, we had the prior owner fire him. And then we brought in a manager that didn't work out. And then we learned that he actually was kind of a rock star. It was the owners of the facility that were kind of tripping him up. So now we've since hired him. And now he's been one of our best managers now for a while, because he's just really good. He's really good with people. He understands storage. And I think the prior owner that he worked for just didn't let him do his thing. And so we've actually, given him a lot of leeway in terms of how he runs things, and he's hitting his numbers and doing great. So we just keep, we try to add facilities under his responsibility. In fact, so when we acquired, he was at Granite City Storage, and he was also managing a facility in that same market. And then from there, so he was just managing those 2 facilities. Now we have him managing 4 or maybe 5 now at this point
Oh, wow.
because he can do it remotely and he's good at it. And we didn't have any of these rules about you got to be at behind the desk in the office at the property for all this time, because it just doesn't make any sense in today's with today's technology.
Yeah, and you can spread the management expense throughout multiple facilities. It just seems like a win-win. And that's, I guess, really what I was asking is just, how many of those are that you're buying, and you don't have to go through them all by any means, but are you buying some of these and then you see this management, line item on the financials and say, well, wait a minute, with our plan, here's just a built-in increase in NOI just with replacing the management to our hybrid model.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, well, a lot of times we're able to cut that line item by at least 50%.
Wow. That's great.
Big, which is a big money saver.
Yeah, that's huge. All right, I know we're running just a little bit long on time, and I still have some questions for you, but why don't we start with maybe anything about self-storage that we didn't cover on the podcast so far that you feel like it's important for the audience to know?
Sure. Yeah, and by the way, Keith, that's totally my fault. I'm solidly in my 50s now, so I'm getting very long-winded in my old age. So I apologize for going long. But I think one of the things that folks should know, and one of the key points in our investment thesis in self-storage, one of the big reasons we like it is because it is a highly fragmented industry. Well, what does that mean? So the names that you've heard of, Public Storage, Extra Space, CubeSmart, et cetera, they only control about 35% of the self-storage market. So the rest of it, 65%, is middle operators like us that have whatever, double digit, maybe 10 to 50 stores kind of thing. But then the rest, the vast majority, is just onesie, twosie, mom and pop owners. Like I mentioned at the very beginning, they just don't run it like a business. So we see that as a huge opportunity for consolidation in the self-storage industry, which is one of the things we're super excited about. The other thing I'll throw out there is self-storage is becoming more and more adopted, right? So a few years back, it was only like 9% of households were using self-storage. Well, now it's up to like 12, 14. It's increasing quite a bit. It looks like I mentioned earlier, millennials are the largest generation in our society right now, and they love self-storage.
Right.
So I know, going maybe from 9 to 12 doesn't sound like a lot, but when you consider there's 120 million households in the country, every 1% move is 1.2 million new self-storage customers, and the development is just not keeping pace with that.
Yeah.
So we really love that from the demand side, and of course, with the population increasing and millennials, getting into their prime spending years, they're going to be buying stuff and storing stuff. So we feel really good about the self-storage industry and the longevity.
Yeah, for sure. Two great points there. I think we see a little bit of that in the mobile home space as well. It's pretty fragmented, a lot of mom and pop owners, and just the opportunity there is huge. And you still have years and years and years of that ahead of you. And like you said, the fact that part still poses the opportunity just to make things more efficient. You also have this increase in clientele with the percentages. So that's awesome.
Right. By the way, I love the mobile home park industry. I mean, our country needs a solution for affordable housing, right?
Exactly.
So, I mean, mobile home parks is where it's at as far as that's concerned, and it's just crazy cash flow. It's a great asset class.
For sure. Okay, well, let me ask maybe, Tom, how people can find out more about you if they want to look at investing with Belrose Storage Group. How do they do that?
Yeah, thanks, Keith. This has been awesome. I really appreciate the time today. Yeah, I'm Tom Dunkel. I'm the Chief Investment Officer here at Belrose Storage Group. And if you Google Tom Dunkel, You'll find me on all kinds of social media. I've at this point, I've probably been on maybe 75 or so podcast interviews. So I've got a lot of podcast interviews out there. You can find our website, bellrosestoragegroup.com, where you can find, you can sign up for our Inner Circle investor platform and see all of our current offerings and also our past offerings. But I did I did have to take a second for a quick funny story.
Okay.
So my name's Tom Dunkel, right? Dunkel. And you've all heard of Groundhog Day, right? And have you heard of Punxsutawney Phil?
Yeah.
I think so. In Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, that's where they have they pull the groundhog out of its den to decide, is it going to be, is it going to be spring soon or is it going to be winter for longer? Well, the head guy out there in the Punxsutawney, Groundhog Day, there's an organization, right? His name's Tom Dunkel. So if you if you Google Tom Dunkel, you might find out about the Tom Dunkel out in Punxsutawney, with Punxsutawney Phil and the Groundhog Day, or you might find me. So,
Right. There you go. 50-50 shot. Okay. That's crazy. Yeah, that's kind of a different, it's a unique last name for sure. And just to have that being the other guy is a little bit funny.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. Oh, yeah. They get all dressed up. He wears like a top hat. It's a whole big thing out there, Punxsutawney, central Pennsylvania.
That's awesome.
Nothing better to do out there, I guess.
Well, Tom, I've really enjoyed our time together. I think you've added a lot of value and really given us an insight into the self-storage industry and asset class. I got two other questions for you that I ask every guest, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
The first one is really for somebody that's maybe just starting out in their investment journey. What recommendation or advice could you give them?
Sure. I would say I'd give three quick points there. Number one is get some goals. Like what is it you're trying to accomplish through your investing, right? Are you looking at the long haul? Are you looking to build wealth and grow over the long haul? Do you have some specific thing that you're investing for, like maybe college or a vacation home or something like that? So what is it that you're looking to do? And then number two would be go out and find those opportunities that match up with those goals. So don't really follow what the Joneses are doing, because guess what? The Joneses are broke and poor. They're up to their eyeballs in debt. So don't follow the Joneses. Go do your own thing. Find those investment opportunities that line up with your goals. So if it's cash flow and tax advantages and growth and hard assets, you should be looking at mobile home parks. You should be looking at self-storage. You should be looking at multifamily, right? And then, the last thing I would say is, and we have a resource on our webpage that we call the SAFE investing method. SAFE is the acronym for SAFE. Stands for sponsor. So a lot of people, they skip right past the sponsor and they start looking at the deal. They want to see the returns. They want to see the asset class. They want to see maybe the market. Before you look at that, you got to get to know your sponsor. Like, have they been around? Do they have a team? What's their track record? You got to take that time to get to know who you're handing over your hard-earned money to, right? I mean, I've been ripped off before and it doesn't feel good. Had I done more homework on my sponsor, I would have saved myself, well, in one case, 50 grand, in another case, 60 grand. So yeah, I've been ripped off a couple times. It's not great. So yeah, so the Safe Investing Method is an ebook on our website. It gives you all kinds of questions. Ask your sponsor. S for sponsor. A is for asset. Figure out the asset that you're actually investing in. F is for financials. What are the financial projections and like tax implications, those kinds of things. And E is for exit. That's another thing. When you're investing in a self-storage deal with us, or I'm sure similar deal with mobile home parks, you have to be comfortable with the fact that your money is going to be tied up for a period of time. And
Right.
So you need to understand the exit, like what needs to happen, how does it happen, when does it happen? So those would be my few points for someone that's looking to just get started. And the last one would be get started.
Right.
Just do it.
There you go. Yeah, we'll definitely put some show notes down for how to access that ebook. But it sounds great. Another question that I have, I asked for the audience, but I also asked for myself, and that is just any book recommendations. They don't necessarily have to be real estate related, but it certainly can be just something that's been impactful to you.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question, Keith. And I do encourage people, especially people like me, like I tend to get in a rut and I'm just reading the next business book or the next real estate book. So my favorite book of all time is called The Last Place on Earth. And it's a novel. Well, it's not a novel. It's historical account of the race to discover the South Pole. And so this is the story of Roald Amundsen. He's like a Norwegian hippie guy. And you've got the English guy, the British Navy guy. I'm forgetting his name right now. But the point is you have the British Navy, right? Very well funded. They have the technology, but they're very arrogant. And so they don't plan very well. Meanwhile, you've got this guy, Amundsen, who like goes and lives with the Eskimos so he can learn about dog sled driving and living on pemmican and all this other, really important stuff. Scott, that's his name. The English guy's name is Scott. Anyway, so it's a really cool story and it's an adventure story, but it also has some incredibly important leadership lessons in there that anyone can apply to their lives or their business for sure. So that's my favorite one.
Yeah.
The Last Place on Earth.
Last Place on Earth. So I have not heard that one, but I've heard the story. And Jim Collins talks about it in Great by Good.
Good to Great.
Good to Great. 20-mile march, and making sure that you're going out and you're, no matter what, right. You're not overdoing it. Some days you're going out and you're doing the 20 miles.
Right.
So
the consistency.
Exactly. Well, cool.
Huge point.
Great recommendation. I'm going to have to check out the Best Place on Earth, and I appreciate you being on, Tom. Thank you so much.
Sure, Keith. This was great, man. Thank you so much.
Yep. Being that you're still here, I trust you found value in this episode. I personally wish I would have known these guests and strategies when I started my wealth creation journey. Go to wealthflow.capital to subscribe to our newsletter. And as a free gift, we will send you our quarterly market report and the top 10 things to look for in an investment opportunity. Take a minute to give our show a rating and review. Help us reach 1 million professionals by subscribing and sharing this episode with someone you know who could also find value in it.